Committee, as well as near the headquarters of the Republican National Committee. Surveillance footage showed a person wearing a hooded sweatshirt and face mask, but no arrests had been made for nearly 5 years.
Brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads.
Investigators searched through more than 3 million lines of information, traced sales of materials that could have been used to make the bombs, and reviewed cell phone tower data to find the suspect.
There was no new tip. There was no new witness. Just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work.
On January 6, 2021, law enforcement found the 2 bombs as Congress convened in the Capitol to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election between President Trump and then-candidate Joe Biden. Neither of the bombs had detonated. The Bureau had offered a $500,000 reward for information in the case. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said that after he and Director Kash Patel took office early this year, they evaluated a number of high-profile cases and decided to push additional resources to the pipe bomb investigation.
We have seen in this case an incredible collaboration around the clock, in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. We call each other, we make contact, they need a warrant, they need something, someone wants legal advice. These are the men and women who never give it up. And this case is big.
As the case is active and ongoing, officials have not yet revealed a motive. Patel said more information and a timeline will be made public within 24 hours. David Lamb, NTD News.
And for analysis on the arrest, we're bringing in John Lott, an author and the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. John, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you here. First, give us your thoughts on what's happened here nearly 5 years later, and we've got a suspect.
Well, thanks for having me on. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It took 5 years to do this. Pretty clear, I think, that the previous administration was not interested in trying to solve this. No new information apparently was needed in order to go and solve this crime. They just re-looked at the stuff that they already had acquired. MS Now is reporting that this individual had Antifa ties, which is left-wing. Obviously, that goes kind of against the narrative that was put out during the Biden administration, that somehow this was probably a Trump supporter, even though they had put these bombs next to both the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee headquarters. I think it's an embarrassment that the FBI for all those years was unable to bring this case to a conclusion.
Now, speaking of the FBI has made it a priority to go after the worst of the worst. Now, I want to hone in on this. The Justice Department has been going after the 764 network, which it describes as a violent extremist group that originated in Texas in 2021. Authorities say it preys on children and teenagers, coercing them to harm themselves and send explicit pictures. Now, in an interview with the Epoch Times recently, FBI Director Kash Patel said arrests linked to the network are up almost 500% this year. I want to play a clip from him and then have you react after.
Criminals were convincing children to mutilate themselves. And in some cases, unfortunately, more than one, these children ended up committing suicide because they were threatened by the perpetrator that we will go public if you tell anyone.
Now, the 764 network hasn't been around for long, but is accused of carrying out horrific crimes. What do we know about them?
Well, I think that adequately or accurately describes what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a group that uses extreme violence. They do literally incredibly disgusting things like forcing these young children to literally carve the name of the people that are holding them into their skin. They use all sorts of threats against the children as well as their families in order to try to control them in different ways. describing them as the worst of the worst, I think, is an accurate description.
Now, Patel says members of the 764 network subscribe to a shared perverted ideology but operate in a decentralized way online. How difficult is it to take down a group like this?
Well, surely it makes it more difficult. I mean, if you have one central coordinating actor or group there, once you take that down, and you would normally kind of work your way up through different contacts to the top there. But once you got to the top, then you would pretty much eliminate the entire organization, or at least greatly limit it. Unfortunately, when you have this type of horizontal organization, it takes a lot longer to kind of roll the whole thing up. They're making progress, not only in crimes in this area, but in many other areas, but it's just a more difficult process.
Now, some say the far-left extremist group Antifa is just an idea or doesn't have any organizational structure, but Patel's FBI seems to have a different view. Here he is talking about efforts to take them down. I want to play some sound on that.
So we're treating them as a terrorist organization that they are, and mapping out the money. You know this from me. I've always said, follow the money. So with our partners in Treasury, we are following the money and mapping out this entire network and treating them as a terrorist organization under the authorities the president has given us.
And John, some Antifa leaders in America fled after President Trump designated the group a terrorist organization. Now, if the FBI and others keep up this pressure for the entirety of Trump's term, will we see significant changes in America?
Well, I hope so. I mean, you've brought up several different points here. First of all, with regard to the organization, look, I mean, obviously, it's not just something that just occurs in terms of the riots that are taking place in different areas, or to have the support there, or to have the money to go and bail people out of jail. Somebody is coordinating, everybody showing up at these riots together at the same time. That indicates some form of organization to me. And the fact that they will go and make sure that they have the signs that they need, or the bricks or other things that they're going to be throwing at the police. These are obviously brought in. There's some coordination that's occurring there. And obviously, I think by definition, there's some organization. It's just not something that just spontaneously shows up. Somebody has to go and show up at the jail in order to go and post bail for these individuals when they do get arrested. Well, again, that shows some type of organization there, both in terms of raising the money and in terms of holding the money and in terms of organizing people to go and get other people out of jail.
And it does look like Patel is looking to reform the FBI and its focus. He says he wants to allow good cops to be cops. He's also putting more emphasis on staffing FBI field offices outside of Washington, D.C. Now, he says this has already contributed to the lowest murder rate in modern history. Here he is talking about that.
So what we did was we put 1,000 more agents in the field. Nearly every single state and every field office got a plus up of actual agents to go hit the streets, do the work that the president assigned us to do in terms of priorities, defending the homeland, crushing violent crime.
And John, you're an expert on crime in America. What do you make of this strategy?
It definitely seems to be working. Look, as he said, right now it looks like we may have the lowest murder rate ever recorded in U.S. history this year. That's a very dramatic change from the changes in violent crime that we'd seen over the previous 4 years. I mean, during the previous 4 years, we had a 59% increase in violent crime. That was the largest percentage increase in violent crime over any 4-year period that had ever been recorded by the Bureau of Justice Statistics and the Department of Justice. We had never even seen anything even close to that in terms of a large percentage. And I think the types of policies that were being mentioned, like moving FBI agents out of D.C. to where the crimes are occurring, is important. It doesn't do you any good to have them in Washington, D.C. It may help their careers because that's where people get advanced, but it doesn't help in terms of reducing crime. This year, they've made something like 30,000 arrests so far this year That's 100% increase over the number of arrests that occurred during the entire year last year by the FBI. That's a huge increase. 25,000 of those 30,000 are for violent crimes. And so, under the Biden administration, you had the FBI going and recording the license plates for people who had attended school board meetings. You had infiltration and spying on Catholics who, supported doing the Latin Mass. It's really a misuse of resources there. Having them go after violent criminals, having them go where the crimes are occurring. That's very important. And look, it's more than just the FBI, though that's been important. I think changes in dealing with illegal immigrants has been important. It's not an accident, not just a coincidence to me, that we had this massive increase in violent crime over the last 4 years. At the same time, we had this unprecedented flood of illegal aliens into the country. And this year, when they are going and deporting criminal illegal aliens, we've seen this drop in murder rates. And I think when it comes out a year from now, the data on violent crime will see a similar drop in terms of violent crime across the board. You got to look at this and just think of the fact that it's more than just the illegal aliens that you've deported. You have other illegal alien criminals who we haven't caught yet, but they also are committing less crime because they don't want to get deported. And one way to try to keep them from getting deported is to keep their heads down and not commit crime. Because if they go and commit crime, they're going to get on the radar of police. And if they get arrested, that makes it more likely that they'll be turned over to ICE and deported. And so the safest course of action for them is just not to commit crime. So we have a couple reasons why I think what they're doing with regard to illegal aliens and what they're doing at the FBI and Trump going and moving law enforcement into one city after another, like Memphis, which had a huge crime problem, or Washington, D.C., or soon into New Orleans. All those things help.
A lot of changes in priorities as you laid out there. John Lott, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.